Welcome, everybody. While we're waiting for some people to trickle in, where's everybody tuning in from today? As the hat suggests, I'm in the Northwest. I'm in Vancouver, BC area. Where's everybody else? I've got my colleague Masoud's on with us. He'll be answering questions as we're going through. While I'm presenting, he'll answer questions in the comments. Where's everybody else? There's usually somebody New York, there's usually some East Coast, usually some folks from Europe most of the time, that part of the world. He's Scott Trainer. Hello again. Denver, very cool. Oh, we're waiting for some more folks here. First of all, this is a bit of an advanced training, so I will kind of explain some things briefly as I'm going through, but it's not meant for super beginners. If that is you, by all means, stick around. You might learn something and still get to see some walkthroughs. But it is a bit more advanced for people who are maybe hitting roadblocks and want to find some workarounds and cool ways to do things that aren't so obvious. And the recording will be sent out. So if you have to dip out early or if you miss something, the recording will be sent out afterwards. Let me turn off the music here. All right, music off. And let's jump into a few slides first. Nothing super intense. I just want to cover some basics, and then we'll jump into some demonstrations. All right, so first and foremost, who am I? So my name is Nick. I'm a customer education specialist here. I'm on the marketing team at browse.ai. I've been at the company since 2023. And before that, I worked at Zapier for 7 years. I started as a customer champion, and then I was in success, ended up in the community. So I talked to a lot of customers about a lot of apps. I love no code, automation, apps, AI, all that stuff. It just, I love it. And fun fact, I bought the original browse.ai lifetime deal a few years back. So before I ever even had any notions of working here, I just thought it was a cool product. And I reached out to the founder, and the rest is history. Here I am talking to you, all you fine folks, about the product. So let's jump into a couple things here. So first, some terminologies to make sure we're all on the same page. So first of all, what is a robot? So the robot is the automated assistant that you're training to extract and monitor the web data. So you build a robot on a particular website, and that is what does all the work for you. The origin URL is the starting web address where your robot begins extracting data. I say begins because you can start on a particular URL and then click through some things and maybe end up in a little bit of a different place with filters or tabs, things like that. So this is where you want to start training the robot. Input parameters are variables you can change each time when your robot runs. So in this screenshot, for example, so you could do a search in a search box, and then each time the robot runs, you can put different search terms in there or the limit of items you want to scrape. So you might first run, say I want 100, but then from there on, you might just want 20. So those are a couple of input parameters. You don't always have to have one. You can just scrape a site and then just set a limit and not have anything like a search. But those do exist, just so you're aware. And I'll show you some of those in the demo. Robot Studio is the newest and latest and greatest interface for training robots. It's where all the current development is happening. Browse.ai began with the Chrome extension, and I actually will show you the Chrome extension because there are some times when you might still want to use it. But primarily, you'll probably want to start in Robot Studio. It's got some advantages, and it's where all the most recent work is being done. In Robot Studio, you've got two options for what you can scrape. You can scrape from a list, so you can capture a list, which if you think about the types of things you might want to scrape, it'll be like a list of products or properties or people. You can usually tell because it's a repeating pattern of things. So that is a list of items. Capturing text typically is static pieces of text. So not something that repeats, but maybe like a page title or a description, usually on a detail page, like a single page. So a list could be a list of properties, and then you might want to capture static text from the single property page. And I have asterisks on both of these because you can capture both a list and text on the same page. So it doesn't just have to be you get a list and that's all you can do. You can do each on any page you want. And that's it. That's it for terms. Nothing super crazy. Just want to throw out a couple of things in there, make sure we're all talking about the same thing. And these are just a few of the use cases that you might want to use browse.ai for. So I'm just going to take a sip here. And as I'm doing that, review this list. And I'm curious if anyone wants to share in the comments, what are you trying to do with browse.ai? Is it one of these? I always love to see the comments because someone always says something I've never thought of before. A big one is competitive intelligence. So tracking pricing or features from other websites, content aggregation, getting content from multiple places and getting it all into maybe your one database, market research. LLMs is a big one. You can literally scrape the entirety of a page and just throw in kind of the raw data into an LLM and have it do the work if you don't want to, pinpoint all the specifics. Nobody wants to share today. That's cool. I now will jump into some demo stuff. So let me just move you over to this screen so that I can share my other one here. I won't be looking at comments, but okay, cool. Someone says, trying to build my real estate business as a real estate agent broker. Cool. All kinds of use cases there for real estate. Masood will be in the comments to help you out as I'm going along, as you no doubt will have a question maybe when I'm presenting something. So let's jump into some demo stuff. So as I said, this is a bit more of an advanced webinar, so I'm not going to go through the basics, but I do want to point out on this page, you've got two options. On the new robot page, you can extract structured data or monitor site changes. They both will get you into the same process. Just this one will then prompt you to create a monitor, a schedule by which you want to then run that robot. They both do the same thing. There's not any difference. If you don't choose monitor, you can never add one. That's not the case. They're just, if you know you want to monitor, you might want to go that route. That's it. So I'm going to show a few sites today. One is going to be this site here, Public Square. I actually learned about it from an office hours session we had. I wasn't aware of it, and it's kind of a cool use case. Another one is this site here, Quoted. The main use case for this site is to get experts on various topics you might want to have for an article or some sort of reporting you're doing. I thought it was pretty cool use case with all these filters on the side. And the last one is a site called Niche, which you can go into to see all kinds of information about schools. So you've got all these lists and all these filters on the side, and you click into an individual and you got all this information. So this could be the type of thing you might want to do. Someone says, get all the schools and get all their contact info. So I'm going to start with this one here, Public Square. So I'm going to start at Public Square. Well, you know what? I won't start at the homepage. I will click into one of these categories. Let's say health and wellness. So this will be my origin URL. I'll start on this page. And to give you a preview of what I'm going to do, I don't want products. I actually want businesses. So I can train my robot to click into businesses and then scrape this list of items. And then I can train a second robot to then get the details from an individual business, training it to click into this about, and then get this contact info. So that kind of thing would be a huge hassle to do for hundreds of items if someone said to do that. But you can do it with two robots. So I will briefly touch upon the concept of deep scraping. It's not the primary topic for this webinar, but I realized that's one of those tricky things people kind of have a hard time wrapping their head around how we do it. So let's copy this URL, health and wellness, extract structured data. I'll paste it here, and then I don't need to log in on this website, so I won't check that box. Start training robot. I'm going to first use Robot Studio, but then I'm going to show you a reason why I'm going to use Chrome extension afterwards, because something doesn't quite work exactly how I want it. So the workaround is to try Chrome extension, which does work for precisely what I want. But first, I'm going to show you Robot Studio. So Robot Studio has a lot of advantages, one of which is you've got a lot more guidance and there's a lot more AI and automation built into it. So once this loads, I will train my robot to click down here into businesses. So you'll notice the URL doesn't change. Sometimes when you click into something, URLs change, in which case I could start there, but because it doesn't, I train my robot to click in that for me. So that's the beauty of something like browse.ai is you don't just have to have the exact URL. You can show it what you want it to do. So I'm clicking into businesses, and now I want this list of items. There's almost 1,600 of them. So I will first click on capture text, then from a list. Now, when you hover, you'll see it doesn't quite look right. List item 1 and list item 2, that's the same list item. So if you move your mouse just a little bit, that looks more correct. Each of the outlines is for just one item. So I will click on that. And now the robot's going to go through those items and look for valuable data to extract. So this is one advantage of Robot Studio over Chrome extension, is it does this. So I don't have to go through and pick each piece of data I want. So business name, business link, that's the link to the single page, which I'm going to get that. If you don't want something, you can just click and remove it. I don't really care about the cover image or the avatar image. So I'll remove those. You can rename these if you want. I just want to call it business. Press enter, and then maybe I want this to be business page link, not to be confused with it's their website, because it's not their website. It's just their page on this publicsquare.com. And I'll say I want 100 items, set the number of items I want. Now, the pagination, I'm going to review it to see what Robot Studio has detected. Correctly, it has detected this is a next page type of pagination. So I'll confirm this, and then I'll save my captured list. So now let's finish this up. We also suggest a name for the robot itself. That's fine. You probably wouldn't want to call it this unless you're always going to scrape just that category. So maybe something like businesses list would make more sense. Because, for example, with that same robot, I can train it, I can set it to go to a different category entirely. As long as the page is going to be a similar layout, which lots of these websites will be for category pages and things like that, I don't have to train another robot. So you want to name it kind of as vaguely as possible, so it's not just called health and wellness, because if you scrape something else, that's not, that name's not going to apply to everything. So let's go back and see what's happening here. All right, so I asked it for 100 items. It only got 48. What's up with that? Well, what's up with that is that there are 48 items per page. I'm going to click on businesses here. So it didn't do the pagination properly. It didn't go to the next page. So this is an example of a workaround that I can now try the Chrome extension to do the same thing. So let's go back. Let's first of all say, yes, it looks good because it did scrape what I want, just not pagination wasn't done properly. So let's go back, build a new robot, make it the same link, start training, and this time I'll use the Chrome extension. Now, the Chrome extension is very similar, but as I said, it's not as advanced. It was the first thing, and then we built Chrome, Robot Studio to be better. But sometimes, for whatever reason, based on a site structure or just some little thing, Chrome extension might do something the Robot Studio can't, in which case I will capture the list. Actually, first I will click on businesses, then capture list, and then we'll go here. See, nothing happens now. So I have to go through and I have to say what I want it to capture. So that's already one thing that Robot Studio does that I really enjoy. I just want the name and the link. That's going to be enough. Capture the link and the name, and we'll press enter. So business link. Doesn't matter what I call these right this second. I just want to show that pagination will work. So I'll say 100 items again. Please select pagination type. Click on next to navigate to the next page. And now I have to go specify what the next button is. So it doesn't automatically detect that. It's not the end of the world, but these little things, once you have used Robot Studio, you come to recognize, oh, that is quite handy, that it just gets the data, names the lists, names the columns, gets the pagination. So now I'll click on next, and this is ready to go. And I'll click capture list and finish recording. So it's important to note, regardless of how you train the robot, whether it's the Chrome extension or Robot Studio, the robot's going to do the same thing afterwards. It's not some different process that's running in the background after you train the robot. So it's not as though using the Chrome extension is going to give you an inferior experience or inferior scraping after the fact. It's just a different way of training it. And in this case, if everything goes as planned, yep, so there you go. So you can see a little preview here. 73 items. So it's already gone past 48. So it's gotten me 100. So that's an example of Robot Studio didn't quite get the pagination right. There's something about that pagination button. Sometimes there's an SVG or just something that isn't quite right, and it changes how it operates. So Chrome extension did it properly. So from this point on, everything's fine. I don't need to worry about the robot itself. It's same as if I'd done it with the Robot Studio. Just it works a little bit better for my needs. Now, what if Chrome extension had not worked? What if I wasn't able to get it done that way? You can reach out to our support team, and usually they can go in, see what the problem is, refine it a little bit. Or you could do something like this, where when you click on a page, like a page 2, of course, it's not going to do it. This happened earlier. Click on a page 2. Yeah, so see, question mark page equals 2. So while not ideal, you could do something like this, knowing full well that there are, scroll down to the bottom, 84 pages. I'm doing products now, not businesses, but you get the idea. Not an ideal thing, but if for some reason you were in a bind, just needed to get it done, you could do something like this, copy this, go into something like Sheets here, and then build out all the URLs you need, just drag down like that, and then export the CSV, and then run all of these URLs. So the robot would then go through all the pages kind of manually. So instead of using pagination, you would tell it all the URLs. So export CSV, go to your robots, go to tables, and then import the CSV for all those URLs. So it's not ideal, and you wouldn't want to do that on an ongoing basis. But if you can't get Robot Studio to do it properly, you can't get Chrome extension, maybe you don't have time to wait for support, you're like, I just need these, I need it right now, then you can do something like that. There's almost always a way to get these things. Now, not every website's going to necessarily give you this URL. So if that's also the case, that you don't have these tidy URLs when you click through pages, it's going to be a little more difficult. But hopefully between all those options, Robot Studio, Chrome extension, our support team, and the URL like this, you should be able to get what you want. So that's one example of clicking through a tab, training a robot, and getting what we need. Next, I'll show you this site called Quoted. So you may only have one need on a site like this. You may only ever have to come here and get one type of search, and that's great. You could just click on, maybe you want CEOs and AI, and you want quick to respond. Cool. Notice the URL doesn't change here. So you can't just select what you want, assume that's what you're always going to want to search, and then go and put that URL and train it. So this will be an example where we want to train the robot to do those things. So I'll start with this URL, and I'll go train a robot. I'm going to use Robot Studio here. So you'll want to think through, how flexible do you want your robot to be? Like I mentioned, if it's only ever going to be the same kind of search, you can make a robot that's exactly what you need, and then you know that that's what it's going to do. But if you wanted to make it a bit more flexible, luckily this website, not all websites do this. For each of these check boxes here, there's also a filter here where you can search it in a box. So I can do CEO, press enter, and it checks that box. I could do AI, press enter, and then it checks that box. So I can now train my robot to do those things instead of clicking on them, because when I click on them, yes, I'm training the robot, and yes, it will do exactly what I ask. But if I want to change it, I don't get input parameters, because it's difficult. How would I specify what I want it to go click? I could tell it the words, but it doesn't know where to go on the page. But typing into search boxes, different story. So I will say, type CEO in this box. And then I'll say here, type AI in this box. And then maybe quick to respond. That leaves us how many people? 122 results. So now I'll capture this list. From a list, over these, it'll go through, scan all the list items. I just love it so much compared to not having this automation here, this AI do it for me. I love it. Okay, so expert sources, sure, it was 122. Let's just give it limit of 150 to make sure I capture them all. So pagination, it says click on load more to load more items. Is that true? Let's review. It looks like it thinks that's the pagination, but on the list items, it's actually a scroll down to load more. So I'll reselect this up here, scroll down to load more items. All right, so everything's set here, and I'll save captured list. So let's finish that and have the robot run. Expert sources list, sure. So while that's running, let's do a different search. So instead of CEO and AI, let's do founder. and marketing. Okay, so this would, and quick to response. This would give me 34 results. Let's see if I can get that to work here after the robot runs, and I'll show you what it looks like after this runs, where I would input that information. So if I didn't do it in the search way and clicked on them instead, the robot would know to do that. But if I then wanted to change the search parameters, I wouldn't be able to because I've only showed it to click into things. So that's an example of you don't have a specific URL, so you can't just say, oh, well, I'll just change URL and tell the robot to go there, which you could totally. You could train it on one and then send it to a different search results page or filtered URL if this gave it to you, but it doesn't. So that's why I'm suggesting, here you go, 122. I'm suggesting you give it a bit more flexibility up front, if at all possible. So you can see what I searched, CEO and AI. So let's say I want founder and marketing. I'll just say 150 results, sure. There should only be everything works as planned. The live demo gods are shining upon me. It should just be 34 results that come through here. And you could build multiple robots. Let's say you want one that has the quick to respond option. So you train one, check that box, and that's one robot, and make sure you name it something like quick to respond. And then maybe you don't check that box in a different training, or maybe you want one for female, one for male. You can build multiple versions of the robot to do slightly different things. But I would rather give it a bit of flexibility in these searches than train one that says one for founder, one for CEO, one for that's a lot of training versus giving it some flexibility. All right, so 34 items. So that's pretty cool. I didn't have to train it to do anything different. Just go to the same page and put in some different search terms. So that's an example of if you can't get a URL to give you what you want, which that's probably one of the reasons they don't want people scraping or easily linking to things, so they make it only happen down here. See if there's any questions. Does Quota include email contact information? It actually does not. You can click on contact, but you have to sign up to do that. And if you click into, I thought these would be LinkedIn and X profiles, but they're to share the profiles. But look at all this cool information in here. Maybe I'll actually show scraping an individual profile to show you how powerful that is. So all these things, well, let's find someone who's got a bit more. So you can see their bio, their employment, their media, story ideas, which is kind of cool based on what the expert's been talking about, some story ideas, recent quotes, headshots. So you can do a lot of scraping of a lot of people here. So let's just train it on, just to show how that would work. Let's find someone with multiple in each. Okay, a couple employments, yeah, sure, this looks good. So let's go train a robot on this, and I'll show you what that looks like here. And then I'll jump over to niche and show you something. Sure, I'm covering all the things I wanted to. Yes. Okay, so this is an example of you can do static text, but you can also get lists from a page that might not immediately feel like it's for list items. So it's not the original list item page with all the people. It's just an individual's single page. So what list items would you get here? And this is the place where someone might think, well, I don't want a list. I just want the static text. And then you're not properly training the robot. So these are list items. Each of these media things is a list item. Each of these quotes, we'll have to see if each one is a quote or if it's just one big one. Each of these headshots, these are all separate items that you can get as list items here. And for the purpose of deep scraping, if your ultimate goal is you want to get the list of items to then get these details, I would get everything that you want from this one robot. So even if you got it from the first robot, get it again here. So to say just text, you wanted the person's name, their title, let's say so this is an example also. So you see how it's just that first paragraph that's highlighted? I want all of it. So if you move your mouse just a little bit, it gets the whole bio. Visible text. Now, let's confirm this and just call these real quick. Name, title, bio. So the next thing would be this down here, this employment. You might be tempted to say, well, it's just static text. Well, is it though? Or is it a list of items? List item 1, list item 2. And then the magic happens where it goes and extracts those various pieces of data. Company name, company website, profile link, position and duration. So that's pretty cool. You could do it manually if for some reason it's not getting you what you want. You could do it manually as well, but let's just leave it at that. There is no pagination. So there's no pagination here, so I'll just say no more items to load. And save captured list, and then let's do the media. From a list. Now notice, this is also showing the employment above it. So I want to make sure that that's not the case. So if I move it just a little bit, now I'm just getting, well, no, see, I'm getting recent quotes. So now I'm getting just what I want, 1, 2, 3. So another tip is to be very careful on what you're hovering over, because oftentimes it can bleed into the next or previous set of list items. So I'll click here, should get me just these 3 items, or give me a title and a description. Title, description, type, image, cool. I'll say I want 10 of those. I don't want pagination. And lastly, let's see what quotes looks like actually. See if I'm correct that these are different quotes. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you might have thought it wasn't a list of items, and you would have said, just give me this block of text. I'd rather it this way, because as they add more and more quotes, you get them separately. And with Robot Studio, it's so easy. I just click on it, and it just gets the things for me. So I'm not doing a lot of clicking and selecting. And lastly, let's do headshots just to show you what that would look like here. So it'll be the URLs to these headshots and not the headshots themselves, but that's still very handy. You can have all that in some database somewhere, and then you can see a person's headshots. Items to load, save captured list. So let's review what we've got here. We've got the captured texts of the name, the title, the bio, and then image gallery, etiquette, instant. That's just, I should have called this quotes, but whatever. Media mentions, professional experience. And let's finish. So I guess that was a good example to show of how to use list items and static text on a single page and why you might want to. All right, so while that's running, I guess I don't need to show the remainder of that. Let's jump into this site, niche.com. So let's just use this URL, search best schools. I won't do any clicking of things. I won't do any search terms. I'll just start on that first page here. And I'll use Robot Studio first, but I'll show you another case where the Chrome extension actually comes to the rescue, because Robot Studio doesn't do it quite how I want here. So what might ultimately be better for most use cases in Robot Studio might have some edge cases where Chrome extension does something that Robot Studio doesn't. So while we might help the vast majority of people do what they need to do, there are some cases, some site structures that it might not work as ideal for. So in this case, what it's going to do that I don't want it to do is it's not just going to get me the schools, it's going to get me, it's going to count these as list items, these other things that are interspersed amongst them. And I just want the schools. So I'll show you what that looks like, and then I'll show you how the Chrome extension does it a bit more neatly, and why you should always try Robot Studio first and then Chrome extension as a backup if you're not getting exactly what you want. See if any questions from us who's on it. Cool. All these websites, by the way, I've gotten from customers, either during webinars or office hours, which is great. They're all great use cases. We've been spotted. So this is actually a good example of what we do when we've been detected as a robot. We try something else. And still get you access. Good luck doing that in a Python script. Just saying. Okay, so let's capture the list of items here. So it looks all right, but you'll see that it's getting me more than I want. And I don't have a way by hovering, I don't have that trick of I can move my mouse around and get exactly what I want. So what's going to happen is it's going to be more than, I think, 25 items or 25 schools, I think, are on a page, and I'm going to get more than that. And you'll see some of them are empty. It's not the end of the world, but it's needless credits, and it's skewing my data to not look so great. So let's just finish training this, and then I'll show you how the Chrome extension will actually get me neater data. So we'll go back, train your robot, use Chrome extension, and you'll see it gets me only what I want, not those extra little bits. So as I hover, notice it doesn't get me. Hold on. Didn't do it yesterday. Stop it. Don't do this to me. Didn't do it yesterday. Oh, I swear I got it to work yesterday. Come on. Okay, well, this is pretty close. Let's just call this. And then just pick one data item. I don't want to pick a bunch of them just for the sake of demo. Schools. Let's say 100s, pagination. This next page, scroll down. And save captured lists. So it should be, let's see, is it 20, 24 schools on a page? Let's see if I did it close enough. I didn't get the exact whole list item I wanted, but I think it will at least give me the 24 and not more than that. It did work yesterday. Regardless of it specifically working here, that's an example where for list items, sometimes the Chrome extension isn't as liberal in what it will select. It's a bit tighter, which could work for you or not work for you. Sometimes you'll get the reverse. You'll try Chrome extension and realize, oh, I need it to be opened up a bit more. It's only selecting these other things. Another thing to show you on this site here is we've got all these boxes we can check. So if I wanted it to just be online, the beauty of this site is it will change the URL. Well, that's not a good example. I want something where it changes. Regardless, it does change the URL, so that's great. But something like this, these niche grades here, when I click on these, the URL changes, say academics grade equals, and it's flexible in that way. But again, this is not a box we're typing in. So if you train a robot, you can't necessarily, you can train it to click on things, but you can't then after the fact say, oh, I want all these, and do that flexibly with input parameters. So what you could do is you could copy this URL, whatever the one you want it to be, something like this, bring it into a Google Sheet. And I'm not going to get into details. So you can look this up, or you can use AI, but something like a concatenate function where you put in the URL and then you have different columns for what you want the final URL to be. So I could do B, 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 and then the URL changes here. And then you could export this as a CSV and then import it into the robot. So that's an example of if it's not something you can customize in the robot itself each time, you could create the custom URLs. Honestly, AI could probably do it as easily. You just tell it what you want. Here's my URL. Everywhere there's a variable, put in these sets of parameters and then import those into your table. So this one's taken a while. Niche does not want to be scraped for obvious reasons, probably. A lot of data there. So you could bring it into, didn't finish it, but you could bring it into the table. For example, this is the wrong robot, but you get the idea. Import CSV and then run all those URLs with all the custom grades that you have input here via either Google Sheets or AI or what have you. So I think that's all I wanted to demo. So to recap, try Robot Studio first. It is typically the better experience. It does more work for you. If that doesn't work or something's not quite right, try the Chrome extension. If that doesn't quite work, contact support team. They're usually happy to refine a robot and get you on your way. Otherwise, use some of these workarounds where you get your different URLs or you use search boxes to make things a bit more flexible. All right, let's have some time for questions if anything was not answered here. All right, does anybody have any questions that were not answered? Actually, Mustard, if you want to, you can add comments or could pin them or fave them if there's anything that you see. Yes, Scott. Yep. Drop a specific use case example. I love the challenge of use case examples. As you wait for Scott, anyone else feel free to drop in some questions here. I realize your question may not have been answered here. This was only a select few ways to get around things. There are lots of other things. It's the best way to contact support. The best way to, if you go to help.browse.ai, there's a widget on the bottom that you can type in there, and that's probably the fastest and easiest way to get in touch with support. What about websites that have data in different pages separated by letters like this website? Perfect. I love examples. How do I just copy the text of your comment? I don't know that I can. Alston.com. Okay, I'll just go there. Okay, perfect. Let me just, while Scott is typing questions, let me just behind the scenes see if I can get this to do what I think it should do. So Antonio, is the issue that you want it to go through each letter? So when you click on a letter, it'll give you all the people for that. So you want to say, go to all those pages. Well, I mean, the easiest way to do this would be you get the URL for each of those. That's kind of an example about it in Google Sheets, where it gives you question mark letter equals C. You could construct all those URLs and then import it into a robot you've trained on any of the letters. Doesn't matter which letter. See, another great example. I'm going to use this in future webinars, where you would then construct all those URLs, because there's only 26, right? There's only the letters of the alphabet. And so you could construct them all, import it into a robot that you've built to scrape any one of these letter pages. If it was the case that it wasn't just 26 letters, my assumption is you could capture a list. I think you can capture the list of letters. No, well, won't do it that way. So in this case, my assumption was incorrect, at least in Robot Studio, maybe the Chrome extension. But since it's only 26, I would train it on any one of those pages. And then even if you have to do it by hand, you just type the URLs. But you could just, I think Google Sheets or Excel, you just could drag down. I think it'll recognize, oh, these are letters, and you want me to go alphabetically. So Scott says, I successfully traded in list on this page. I tried deep scrape from something like this. Hit the roadblock when trying to select the different color options. Yeah, color options, that'll have to be, I think, it's a good example though. Thank you for the URL. Color options or size options, things like that. There's some cases where it might just not be ideal, Browse AI, to get you exactly what you want, but I do want to challenge myself. So now I've got that example. I will try something like that. Yeah, that's a tricky one because there's a lot of factors there. It depends on the website too. There are some cases where you might be able to click in and then tell it what to click on and it'll recognize. But if you're trying to go through all of them, like I want to do small, medium, large, or whatever it is, that's going to be trickier. But if it gives you the URL, nice URLs, you can train it to go through each of the various options in the URLs. That's why I love when the URL changes with what you've selected. But I will use that as an example, totousa.com. So I can challenge myself to see what we can do. Not right this second. I'll have to do this offline, but Scott, I can reach out to you, or why don't you email me, nick@browse.ai. Make sure I've got your correct email address, and then I'll see what I can do with that one. Our support team is also great, but I want to challenge myself to see for future content, because I know that's not an uncommon use case, is to get various parameters of usually a product. Pick a color, then scrape the skew and image from each option. That one might be tricky. But there's almost always a way, and if there is, I will find it. Try not to download and save a PDF by pressing the PDF download button from the website. PDFs. Oh, PDFs. It depends, I think, is probably the answer in terms of downloading a PDF. We have, if you go to our help center, search the word PDF, there is a help article. You can extract data from PDF files. You can download files using browse.ai. So it looks like we don't support direct file downloads. Yeah, that'll be a tricky one, because how would we get... If you can get a URL from it, but you probably usually can't, it probably is like an actual physical act of downloading and not, hey, just go to this URL to get the PDF. If it's one of those where it gives you the URL, then you could get that URL. I don't know that we would download the PDF, but you at least would have a direct link to it. I would always just try it. Try anything. See what can happen. You might surprise yourself if you try something, and you might get exactly what you need. Otherwise, you can reach out to our support team. They can answer all these questions, and they're usually pretty quick about it. They've seen it all. Any other questions? Also, we will be having, for anyone who maybe didn't get a specific thing they're wondering about answered, this Friday, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, we're going to have an office hours. So myself and probably Mel, head of marketing, will be on a call for about an hour. Come with your question, ask it. We can dive in and maybe solve some problems that you've been running into. So everybody on this call will get an email with the link to that, and that'll be happening this Friday. Okay, I think maybe there's no more questions. Well, in that case, thank you everybody for showing up, for asking questions, and also for anybody who submitted the answer in the registration form of what roadblocks you're hitting. All of that is great content ideas for webinars. When people say they're having issues or confused or just trying to understand something, we use all of that to build webinars like this. So keep an eye out for any future webinars as well. Try and do them weekly, and weekly office hours as well. Thanks to Masood for being here, answering your questions, and we'll see you in the next one. Show up. See ya.